Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, Attitudes Towards LGBTQ People in Mainland China. First, I would like to turn it to Horan Lee, the Public Policy Fellow here at the Williams Institute. Horan?
Yeah, thank you, King. So I just want to briefly explain about how the Chinese translation going to work. 所以说，对于我们说中文的观众，大家等一下会看到我们会有自动生成的中文字幕在屏幕的下方，然后同时的话，我们也会在 chat 里面就是写进来关于我们这一次讲座的一些总结性信息，大家可以来看。So back to you, King.
Wonderful. Thank you, Horan. And now I would like to turn it to Darius Longarino, the Senior Fellow at Yale Law School, Paul Tsai China Center. Darius?
Thanks, Kim, for the introduction. Thank you, everybody, for coming here today, taking the time to join us. It's really exciting to have the survey out. Surveys like this in China are few and far between, so the information we're getting today is really valuable. And we have a great panel to explain and analyze the results and discuss it further. So I'll just do a quick round of introductions of who'll be speaking today. First, leading off will be the survey report's lead author, Ilan Meyer, who is the Williams Distinguished Senior Scholar for Public Policy at the Williams Institute and Professor Emeritus of Social and Medical Sciences at Columbia University. Ilan will kick us off summarizing the survey's methods and results, and then we'll go to our panel of LGBTQ advocates from China to go deeper into what the survey results mean. Today we have Zhijun Hu, also known widely as Atiang, who in 2008 founded China's Parents, Family, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, PFLAG, to help members of China's LGBTQ community come out to their families. The organization grew to have tens of thousands of members throughout almost every region in China. So Atiang has a wealth of experience to share with us today. Also joining us is Peng, also known as Yanzi, founder of LGBT rights advocacy in China in 2013, which advances the rights of LGBT people in China through China's legal system. The organization built professional networks of lawyers, journalists, and supported impact litigation against conversion therapy, employment discrimination, media censorship, and homophobic university textbooks. Last but not least is Ying, who is currently the CEO of Xiaosheng, a platform that provides LGBTQ affirming mental health counseling. Previously, Ying served as the director of the Beijing LGBT Center, which was the foremost community-based grassroots organization dedicated to serving China's LGBTQ community. The Beijing LGBT Center also conducted pioneering research on LGBTQ issues in conjunction with Peking University, the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and the United Nations Development Program. And some of that research provided inspiration for the survey that we'll be discussing today. So first, let me hand it back to Ilan, who will do an overview of the survey results, and then we'll have a discussion with the panel. Thanks so much. Ilan, please take it away.
Thank you, Darius. I hope you can see my slides. I'm going to have a brief presentation on our survey. As Darius said, this is not something that happens very often, and we went through a lot of work to try to conduct this survey. We started to think about the survey because of some changes that happened in China in the past 10 years, as far as I can tell, where there have been some important setbacks for LGBTQ people in mainland China, such as the limitations on various forms of assembly, like social networks, centers, like the closing of the Beijing LGBT Center, and other restrictions on civil society organizations in general. So we wanted to see whether that reflects the general public attitude in China, or just to see what the general public attitude are about LGBTQ people. The survey was of mainland Chinese public through a panel of volunteers who participated in an online survey regularly through the survey research company Dyneta. So this is not something that they did one-off. They regularly volunteer to do surveys, and they get compensation for those. They receive an invitation with a web link, but they don't know what the survey today would be. So our survey, again, was one of many they receive. And if they choose to participate in any of the surveys, including ours, they receive a small incentive, which is why they participate in this panel to start with, and they accumulate incentives the more surveys they do. The survey included 13 items, which I will describe to you in a minute. They were in Chinese and were self-administered. So people received the link, they went online, and they answered the questions. It was a pretty quick survey. We included all eligible people who were residing in mainland China and were 18 years and older. And we used quotas to monitor participation because the survey was published by Dineta to their participants, but we didn't want everybody, maybe on the first day happens to be everybody's in Beijing, and we didn't want everybody to do just that, or everybody is a female or a male. So we made sure that we have representation on age, geographic region, and gender that was based on the representation of these demographics in the Chinese population as a whole. And the survey was conducted in October, November 2023, and we had almost 3,000 people who participated at the end. I just want to clarify, this is not a national probability sample, but compared to the mainland Chinese population, our survey respondents were younger, they had more education, higher income, and more of them resided in urban centers. And this is a outcome of the way we found them through this panel of volunteers. And I'll come back to that later to explain what I think that means. This was the representation of survey participants around China. So as I said, we tried to include all the regions that we could, and all regions in China have varying populations. So this somewhat reflects this, but also, as I said, our population was more urban than the Chinese population as a whole. So some of our findings, the first thing we asked was, how many people do you know who are LGBTQ? The term diverse groups is the translation from how the Chinese questionnaire was done. And if anybody is interested, we can see the actual questions in Chinese as well as the translation to English that we did. And we know there's no perfect translation. So when you see diverse groups, that's what we use here as LGBTQ. But interestingly, only a third of the panelists who answered the survey said that they knew nobody who is LGBT. And 23% they knew one person at least, and 47%, almost half of them, knew two or more people. This is an important question because in survey research we know that knowing somebody who is LGBT is a good indicator of more positive attitudes toward LGBTQ people. The first set of questions were about social acceptance, and we asked people whether they agree or not that people who are LGBTQ should be accepted by society in general, and 53% said they did agree with that. And also we asked if you're willing to have a neighbor who is LGBTQ, and slightly less than 50%, 46% said they agreed with that. We also asked about protections for LGBTQ people. For example, do you agree that members of this group or LGBTQ people should be treated fairly in the workplace? And there was a very strong support for protection. 62% said that they agree with protection in the workplace. And even more, 68% said they agree that children or students should be protected from bullying and violence in schools. The next set of questions were about the promotion of LGBTQ people in the workplace and in the media. And we had, again, close to 50% said they agree that content related to LGBTQ people should be shown in movies and social media and other media outlets. And 50% said that acceptance of LGBTQ people is in line with the values of justice and equality that China adheres to. We also asked about LGBTQ families. This is obviously a more sensitive question, not just in China, but everywhere. And again, close to 0.5% said they agree that same-sex couple can be capable parents, that same-sex couple have the right to marry, and that if a friend or relative invited me personally to attend a wedding, I would be willing to go to attend a same-sex wedding. So again, close to 0.5%, close to half of the people, 50%, said they agree with those types of attitudes. What predicted people having more positive attitudes toward LGBTQ people, the people who said that they agree with those items that I just presented to you? The first one was familiarity with an LGBTQ person. As I already mentioned, that is always an indicator in every society of more positive attitude. Other ones were young age, being female, and higher education. So those are all things that are associated with having more positive attitudes in this. So in conclusion, overall, the survey responded agree with viewpoints that are favorable toward LGBTQ people. And to tell you the truth, I was quite surprised because that doesn't seem to be in line with the more, I would say, regressive attitudes that have been put forward in mainland China in recent years. And I want to go back to my point about the sample. Although this is not a national representative sample, it reflects a view of an important segment of the population, people who are have higher education, who are more urban and younger, and those are people who we think may shape the future of Chinese society. And for that reason, I think this survey has important implications. And with that, I would like to turn it back to Darius, and I'm looking forward to hear the discussion of this panelists. Thank you, Darius.
Thank you, Ilan, for that overview. The results are truly fascinating. I have some questions for the panel just to get things started. But people listening in, please feel free to add your questions to the Q&A function, and we can get to them at the general Q&A portion towards the end of the webinar. So first, I would like to ask Zhijun about what explains the difference in the results for some of these questions. So, given your decades of experience working with parents in China who are learning to accept their LGBTQ children, what do you think explains some of the differences between, for example, questions that show a high rate of support, which relate to protections in schools and the workplace, versus where we see lower rates of support, which regard having an LGBTQ neighbor, attending a same-sex wedding, and seeing LGBT-related content on media? What do you think explains the difference between the answers to these questions? Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Darius. Based on the survey results, it seems that when it comes to racial support for equality, people are generally more in favor. So, however, when equality touches on personal feelings, the level of the support drops. So I can see that. So in Chinese culture, many people, when making a judgment or discussion something, so first consider, does this matter concern me or not? So this is based on this, something like that. In the survey, questions like, I don't mind if my neighbor is a member of this group, or if a friend or relative invite me to their same-sex wedding, so would I be willing to attend, receives less support because people feeling more personally involved. When something affects them directly, the attitudes can change significantly. So support for LGBTQ-related content in the media is pretty low, probably because some people in China still believe that this kind of content is bad, or it shouldn't be seen by the public, or even that it might turn people into being LGBTQ. Still, some people still believe in that. To give an example, if you were to conduct interviews on the street of China, you notice something interesting. If you ask an old person, do you support gay or LGBTQ people, some might say, yes, I support it. But if you then ask, if your children were gay, would you support them? Their attitude might do a complete 180, like people probably, with some people probably even seen I'd break their legs, so it's very big change in the attitude. The initial support they expressed was just polite or superficial. So I think this phenomenon exists in the other countries too. For instance, in other studies I have read, if someone has a family member who is LGBT, so they are much more likely to support same-sex marriage. When people feel personally connected to this issue, so they tend to have a deeper emotional understanding of LGBTQ people, which goes beyond just a racial stance. There's a big difference between I think I support it and I fear I truly understand it. So this is totally different. I think the deeper of acceptance isn't on the same level. PFLAG China is working aim to encourage more parents, family members, and friends to accept LGBTQ people and even become volunteers. These individuals have closer relationship with LGBTQ people and strong empathy, and more motivation, and a great sense of mission. So as more LGBTQ individuals come out, the public will have more opportunity to see those people for who they are, and more from I think I support it to I fear I truly understand it. So this will ultimately improve the overall environmental for LGBTQ people. I believe China's LGBTQ community needs to be more proactive in coming out, gradually increase visibility to improve and create a more friendly environmental. Yeah, thank you. Back to Darius.
Great, thank you, Zhijun. That's a great point about how respondents might react differently depending on if they think the issue is abstract and distant from them, they might be more willing to express support, but the closer, more personal they feel the issue is, their position might change. And their position might change even more if they have people who are close to them who are, and change in a positive way if they have people close to them who are LGBT, either in their family or their friends. So thank you very much for that. Next, I would like to go to Yanzi to have him reflect on his decade of experience doing advocacy in China. Especially in 2019, Yanzi helped spearhead a campaign to call for the legalization of same-sex marriage in China's first ever civil code. And the campaign went viral beyond expectation. And even the spokesperson for the National People's Congress acknowledged that the Congress had received countless proposals calling for same-sex marriage. So I was hoping to ask Yanzi, given the virality of that campaign, based on his experiences there and in other advocacy campaigns, what do you think about the survey results? Does it track with your experiences out doing advocacy in terms of what you saw of public attitudes? Are there differences? Are there consistencies? And where do you see the direction going?
Yeah, thanks, Darius. I'm very excited to see the result of the survey. And I also would like to address maybe 3 points with some data and stories while we are campaigning. So the first point I would like to say is I think this result is come from the past decades of the LGBT movement in China to transfer the public attitude. Like because there are a lot of LGBT organizations in China, did a lot of like a community empowerment, public education, and media and legal advocacy. That's how the public attitude has been transferred. For example, like according to our annual Rainbow Media reports in 2015, there were around 867 media coverage in Chinese media talk about LGBT issues. And this more than 800 coverage, more than 50 of the coverage is because of the LGBT organization. They are organizing the campaign. So that support the media to talk about to the public on LGBT issues. And more than 50 of the coverage are quite positive on the attitude from the coverage. And only allow 10% of the coverage negative attitude. And also the coverage adjusts the legal rights, the discrimination, the daily life of the community. So this media coverage coming from the LGBT movement on the ground and supporting the transformation of the public attitude. And another example is when we talk about the diversity inclusion on business. On this issue, we conducted another report to see how media or public discussion talk about this topic. And in 2019, allow 50 coverage talk about business diversity inclusion. And we checked the public discussion on social media. Most of the comments from on this topic are quite positive. So I think the campaign from the LGBT organizations support the media to transfer the public educations. So that's the first point. And the second point is about the litigation, legal advocacy is mobilize the community and the public support, and then push the governments to make some comments on the issues. And these comments also return to the public education. So for example, in 2014, when when we launched the first litigation on conversion therapy, most of the public comment on media is about, this conversion practice bring a lot of harm. So people cannot be harmed by, people show a lot of sympathy. That's at that time, maybe most of the people show their sympathy on the topic, not about the equal rights. But after a lot of litigation, media discussion, and the court decision, we spread the information about homosexuality is not a disease. And then the general public can get the information. They started to think about, is it a disease or not? And also think about the legal protection is needed to the community. And another example, Darius mentioned just now in 2019, during the Civil Code same-sex marriage campaign, more than 180,000 people joined the petition, the legal comments, and saw a lot of discussion on the hashtag of this campaign on social media, Chinese on Weibo, and more than 200 million read, and more than 157,000 discussion. And I think this a lot of discussion pushed the government to make comments on this issue. And after the comment, we also check the social media, the discussion. We can see the number increase a lot, allow 800 million people view the social hashtag on this topic, and also more than 200, allow 300,000 discussion on this topic. And I think this all of social, like the campaign from the movement, support the public education to the people on the internet, especially among young people. So in 2019, Phoenix, the website, did a little survey, allow 10 million people join the vote, like the survey online. Like the question is about, do you agree the Chinese Civil Code should legalize same-sex marriage? You can see the result, like in this 10 million vote, allows 67% of the votes to like a vote favor on it. It's not an academic survey, but it reflects a lot of netizen people online, like the young people. They show a lot of positive result to the topic. That's what I would like to say, that because of the another point should also need to be emphasized, that because of the space during the past 20 years, the movement did a lot of things to help the result. Now we can show the result maybe beyond our expectation, especially on the question on good parents or same-sex marriage. But I think that's because of a lot of campaign has been happened. So the space for LGBT movement should be should continue the movement, and we should find another new strategy to continue the movement. That's what I would like to say. Thanks, Darius.
Thank you so much, Yanzi. It's an excellent point that the results we see in the survey didn't just happen in a vacuum, and it took a lot of work from all kinds of organizations, all kinds of people, the LGBT movement, to create changes in social attitudes. I just off the top of my head, I remember looking at a government survey that surveyed youth in Guangzhou in 2010, and it found that 70% of the respondents opposed homosexuality. But by 2018, that number had dropped to 40%. And now with this survey, we see that the numbers are even better. And I haven't seen the most recent the government survey of youth in Guangzhou, but I imagine we would also see improvements in that number. And the 2010s were a decade of a lot of advocacy and the online space being really open and really active and robust. So thank you for that. So I'd like to turn to Ying to discuss sort of what is the use of a survey itself, sort of like a meta question. So Ying, as the director of the Beijing LGBT Center, led many pioneering research surveys about the experiences of LGBTQ people in China, as well as public attitudes towards LGBTQ people in China, and has worked, like I mentioned in the introduction, with various institutions such as UNDP, Peking University, the Chinese Academy of Sciences, which is like a government think tank. So I was just hoping to ask Ying about her experience in how to use data in doing advocacy. What is the use of it? How do you use it? How is it persuasive? So that would help give us an idea of maybe how advocates in China could use the data from the Williams Institute to conduct advocacy. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Ying. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Darius. Hi, everyone. I'm Ying, and I'm honored to be here today with such amazing colleagues and participants who share the same goal of supporting LGBT community, both in China and beyond. As Darius mentioned before, I've been working as the director of Beijing LGBT Center, and we are very fortunate to initiate 7 national-wide survey, including the largest survey on living situation of LGBT in China, partnered with UNDP. Today, I would like to share some insights from this amazing report, explore how global patterns in social acceptance of LGBTIQ individuals can influence policy, and discuss with you guys about potential next steps for our advocacy work in the future. So I was deeply impressed by the findings from the recent report, this report. There are like 3 key statistics stood out to me. So the first one is the familiarity with LGBT people. This report indicates that most of the respondents know at least one LGBT people. This is a significant progress and aligns with the trends we've observed in our work back in China. Actually, our 2021 survey on the psychological health of gender and sexual minorities in China, which included almost like 10,000 respondents in China, revealed that only 8.3% of LGBT people, they don't want to come out. And more than 75% of LGBT people, they are willing, or they already came out to their friends. Well, 45% of them, they are willing to come out to their parents, with 38% of them, they already having done so. So these numbers represent a significant shift compared to our 2016 survey partnered with UNDP. According to that survey, back in 2016, only like 5% of respondents, they fully come out in their life. And we found that according to the 2016 survey, like only 44.5% of LGBT people, they already came out to their friends. So we can say that this progress highlights how self-identity and confidence among the young LGBTIQ generation in China, and more people are willing to be open about who they are. So we could say that over the past decades, we had made a progress within LGBT community together. So very proud of all of our work. And the second thing is about the media visibility. So according to this survey, like 35% of respondents are comfortable seeing LGBTIQ content on media. I want to mention that, do you remember last month, the CCTV just broadcasted the content featuring queer representation during the Paris Olympic opening ceremony, which had reached like millions and billions of viewers without any significant backlash, right? After that, no boycott, no protest. So we can say that this acceptance reflects a growing comfort with LGBTIQ visibility in mainstream culture in mainland China. And the third data was just super. I guess this is the most significant insight is that we know that once the social acceptance across like 50%, it can become a catalyst for rapid legal and societal change. And according to the survey, the social acceptance had reached like 53%. That was just amazing. If we examine global case studies, many countries experienced significant advancement in LGBTIQ rights after they reaching this level of acceptance. I want to raise some examples. For example, in United States, when the national acceptance reached around 52% in 2011, do you remember what happened in that year? Anyone can answer this question? What happened in 2011? Darius, come on, you're from New York. What happened?
Well, was this DOMA related? Is this Edie Windsor case related or no? That's 2000.
In 2011, New York State legalized same-sex marriage. Is that true? No?
I thought it was early. Okay. I'll look that up.
Okay.
I'm ashamed to call myself a New Yorker. I've been in New Haven a while, you know, I'm losing my edge.
Okay. So in UK, so in early 2010s, like the support for same-sex marriage surpassed 60%. And later, this paved the way to the passage of the Marriage Same-Sex Couples Act in 2013. And similar trends happened in Asia as well. We can see like Thailand, the survey showed that Thailand, the social acceptance of LGBT individuals reached 59%. And just say what happened this year, right? So I feel it's a super positive signal for LGBT community in China. And but how we can utilize this data to influence policy in China, I also hope we can like discuss more in this session. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Ying, for that. And I'm sorry for not having my New York history down. And yes, it was 2011. I thought it was 2009, but it passed the assembly in New York and then was rejected in the Senate later that year. So I was wrong. Thank you so much for talking about this issue of critical mass and when that threshold is reached, then we can see rapid change happening in other domains, socially and legally. We have a lot of questions in the chat, and I will get to it. I'm going to peek through here and see what, pick one question out. This question from Ija Zhou about how do you feel about the current legal cases addressing same-sex relationships? For example, child affiliation after a broken relationship, like custody post breakups for same-sex couples in Chinese courts. do they reveal anything about public attitudes? And do they have any impact on on visibility and public attitudes? Maybe Yanzi could handle that question first. So what is the role of legal advocacy in sort of changing attitudes? Does it have a big impact, or does it sort of only affect a narrow band of people who are paying attention?
Yeah, I think so. Like you may read the new updates of the lesbian mothers' custody rights, the legal case, and during the past 4 years, this case has been organized a lot of media discussion, and also go through the court and discuss among the lawmakers. So I think there are two perspectives we can think about that. The one is about when the mother tell the story on media, like at the beginning, she mentioned about like her losing her 2 kids. What's the feeling as a mother? So this narrative, this storytelling help a lot of general public to get better understanding about how to be a lesbian mother. Like the parents. So it raised a lot of support from the social media. And this case also addressed a lot of discussion internally among the Chinese family lawmakers. I think that's very important part that we should also create more conversation with them. So when we talk about same-sex marriage among the family lawmakers in China, they don't think it's possible in the next decade or many years in China. But when we take this case about the legal recognition of 2 same-sex parents with the kids, the directly reply from most of the family lawmakers, they said we should try to find a way to protect the best interests of children. So I think this case addressed a lot of public support because of people all understand how important the children should be equal, protected, and do the best interests of children. So that's how how this case can support the whole society have better understanding. But sadly, even this case have little progress. The law and policy hasn't recognized 2 fathers or 2 mothers yet at the moment. So we should keep fighting on this. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And if possible, if you have a link to the recent news reporting on that case, I think it'd be great to share in the chat so people could read about the case that Yanzi just mentioned more in depth. I'd like to bring up a sort of maybe a deficiency of the survey because it relates to one of the questions. So the sample skewed towards people who are younger, more educated, more coastal, and so maybe we see more positive results for that reason. And related to this, Chong Dongwei asked, given the survey samples was largely young, urban, and well-educated, how can these results inform LGBTQ advocacy among older and less educated people in Chinese rural areas, for example? So what can we learn from the survey and trying to reach folks who maybe aren't as accepting yet or not as informed yet? How to reach those segments of society. And would anybody like to take that? Okay, Ying?
Yeah, from my perspective, it's just like an election here. You know, like for democracy, they won't go to the right state, right? So their focus will be in the swing state.
Oh, the swing state.
Yeah, the swing state. So firstly, because it's very hard to access to those like senior people. And secondly, from my perspective, we need to focus on like a young generation or like maybe even like a middle career people who have power, who have resource, and who have potential in make a change. But indeed, it's very important for us to talk to those senior people because their voice is very important as well. And I feel like actually Qiang, their organization is a good how to say approach, because they use storytelling. So for those senior people, maybe data cannot change their mindset, but still storytelling definitely can change their attitude toward LGBT people. Maybe Qiang can add more information toward this topic.
I just preparing for Jesus' question at first. Can I just answer Jesus' question first, and then I back to just the question is okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Sure. Hey, Jesus, nice to see you here. Since I returned to China this January, that's why I can feel the atmosphere. So when it comes to LGBTQ issue in China, so there is always been a difference between the government's stance and the public attitudes. So I can see the NGO space have tightened up, but for many LGBTQ people living in the cities, so they haven't really feared like the environment has gotten worse. So still, people have a lot of party in the cities, and also they have a lot of events still going on. But if the NGO organize the event, it probably is cannot do that. I just want to see many LGBTQ folks coming out, and even recent case, in recent years. So this is a significant change, and it makes me feel more optimistic. I think it's totally different between government and with our community. But recently, I have noticed a troubling trend. There's an increase, companies doing the conversion therapy. You can see last week, I just talked to a company said they can do their conversion therapy, and people can spend 300,000 RMB, and then kids can be cured homosexuality. Most of their company from Shanxi province in Xi'an city. So I think this is a trend. The more companies they want to to advertisements, and also they said they can cure LGBTQ people. I think this is a consequence of the lack of positive LGBTQ information in the media, because the mainstream media cannot spread the information about LGBTQ, cannot coverage LGBTQ issues. So that's why more the companies said they can cure LGBTQ, can cure gay or lesbians like that. So this is I think this is the result from the situation. Okay, back to Darius.
Thank you, Achong, for that. And it makes me think of a question that sort of draws on some of the topics folks are bringing up in the chat, which is if the environment is closing. So it's not like 10 years ago where there's more media coverage, there are more legal cases, there's more discussion, and instead you have either silence or that space is filled by people who have misinformation, disinformation, LGBTQ phobic voices are louder and are not challenged because the voices that would challenge them are censored or are afraid to speak up. Given that closure of space and very little space left, do you think the same speed of change is possible going forward, or will the rate of positive change slow down, or could things even reverse if this sort of situation continues for many more years? What do folks think about that?
Yeah, so please, Ying, you go first.
Thank you. So to be honest, I don't want to be like a bland optimistic. I believe that it depends on us, all of us. But I think the situation is not so bad, because we could see that according to what Qiang just shared, like last week, we found out this clinic provided gay conversion therapy. Guess what? like immediately, so many people, they took their action to against this clinic. That was totally different compared with like 10 years ago. You know, like 10 years ago when Yanzi and I, we worked on anti-gay conversing therapy. Nobody cared about it. Nobody, you know, believed that we can make that change. So I believe that no matter the external environment, like turn bad or not, so we always have space to do something to make a small change. Even just to, you know, to come out to your friends, to your community, and to how to say, eliminate discrimination against LGBT people in your daily life. That's a small change, and that was wonderful. And I also want to echo one question I saw in the chat box, and about the how data can make a change. So in 2016, I wrote an article to explain why we want to initiate this 2016 report on living situation of LGBT in China. There was a story. So when 2014, I attended a very big conference in philosophy in China, and I was the only one leader who worked for LGBT organization. And at the end of that day, I grabbed the opportunity during the Q&A session, and I stood up and spoke out. And I shared that I work for LGBT community. And later, a guy who worked in like education, Ariel, he came up to me. He said, "Oh, Ying, you are so brave, but I don't think LGBT issue. It's an issue in China. Like you can live your personal life. It's not a big deal." And after that, I realized that the first step toward change is asking and raising the right question. People don't know what happened to LGBT people. So through the survey, we can show the data, we can show the situation, we can raise the question about LGBT people. That's one thing. And the second thing is another story. So I wrote an article to explain why we initiated that report on Zhihu. Zhihu is just like a Chinese version of Quora. And a netizen, a user, posted a comment under my article. And he shared a story that he came across to our questionnaire, the survey, and he forwarded our questionnaire to 3 of his friends. And his friends filled that survey and later asked him, "Okay, what next? What will happen to us?" And he said, "Congratulations, you just witnessed the history." And that story highlights a profound impact that even simple action like participating in a survey can make a change. You know, I feel like sometimes people could be lost, especially when the environment it was going down. We always want to make like a larger scale of impact. But believe me, like if we want to make a large change, usually we need to take small steps firstly. And thirdly, I believe that even like we have so many censorship in China, but still we have space, like we can do this kind of survey. This kind of data also can make a big visibility in China. So what you can do for all the participants here, you can share the data with your friends, with your teacher, with people you feel like who are LGBT friendly, right? That's also a good action to make a change. Thank you.
Thank you, Ying. Yanzi, did you also want to jump in?
Yeah, can I add something? I think we, how to say, it's important to understand or know that like it's true, like the LGBT movement is being restricted during the past few years, and a lot of censorship, a lot of shutdown, or like especially like many of the organization, it's hardly to promote their works, even on their own social media account. LGBT or gay, lesbian cannot be mentioned, even gender equality. So a lot that must bring a lot of negative impact to public education. So another way, a lot of organization cannot organize big events or advocacy work, and this must slow down the whole situation. and a lot of activists face a lot of risks and challenges from the authority. But at this situation, we also need to know that many local community organizations, they are still finding different strategy to continue the work. So people inside China are facing challenge, but still brave to fighting against and resilient, keep their resilient and organize the community and keep low profile using different strategy. And a lot of community individual committee social media influencer, they also telling story online. In this situation, I think it's quite important for the international community to show the support, especially to continue find a way, a safe strategy to support the local organization and human rights defenders in China. So it has been done for many international organizations during the past few years. So I think if you would like also find a way, strategy to support, please talk with us and see how we can find a safe way to continue support the people who are still organizing the community. Thanks.
Thank you, Yanzi. Yeah, so even though there's closing space, there's still many channels for continuing to take action and change public attitudes and engage people throughout society. So just to back up for a second and ask a question about the survey results again. So if we broke down the survey or did another survey that focused on trans people in China, separate from LGBT people in China or non-binary people, intersex people, how would the rates of support differ between these different groups? Do you think in China that support would differ wildly, or would it be somewhat similar between different groups based on sexual orientation, gender identity, sex characteristics? Or do we just need to do another survey to really get the answer?
Darius, can you ask it again? Sorry.
Oh, sure. So if we did another survey that just focused on public attitudes towards transgender people in China, how different would the results be? Do public attitudes differ widely between public attitudes towards sexual minorities and towards gender minorities?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe the result could be quite different because I observed that trans people, they got more serious stigma from general public. For example, like even some girls, they might be LGBT friendly, but they have fear in transgender people. But I believe that mostly because for lots of like Chinese citizens, they have no access to understand the living situation of transgender community. And neither they could like meet any transgender people in their daily life. You know, many trans people because they want to blend into the society, which is hostile for themselves. So basically, if they did their surgery, most of them they try to blend into a society, and for safety reason, they not dare to come out as transgender people. For example, one of my ex-partner who is a trans man, like when he in his workplace, actually he came out as lesbian, not trans man. So you can imagine that we need more visibility and education for trans community.
Thank you, Ying. Yanzi or Zhijun, would you like to jump in on that, or?
Yeah, I mainly agree with what Ying said. It may be more difficult for the group and other more minority.
Okay. Great, thank you. and there's really a dearth of research generally in this area. And I mean, there's already a dearth of research regarding LGBTQ generally, and then for transgender people, there's even less research. Though the Beijing LGBT Center did do a groundbreaking survey in 2017 on the conditions, living conditions that transgender people face in China. I think we can squeeze in one more question, but we can maybe just do a lightning round to maybe develop on the point that Yanzi mentioned towards the end of his last answer, which is what can people do to help? What can people in China do to help, and what can people abroad do to help and support? So we can close with that in the next 2 minutes. So lightning round. Who would like to go first?
It seems I just replied this question that definitely support the community organizer. I also would like to emphasize again that the public attitude now, like no matter how many % of support in general, is from definitely from the community organize or the movement support the to have support the general public to have better understanding. So I think at this very challenging situation, I think people around the world or inside China should find a way to continue support the community organizer to continue their movement. Thanks.
Great, thanks. Atan?
Oh, yes. To be honest, so I don't have the idea. I don't have any good ideas either right now. So the government views LGBTQ NGOs through an ideological lens, and also any collection with the foreign organizations make the issue even more sensitive right now. So I mean, it's still, so as Jens just mentioned, we still can find something space in inside China. So people, I just want to see is more companies. We use the company models. We're doing some of the LGBT service is okay. So, but if we still use their NGO models, it's more difficult because they don't want you raising money from their public, and also if the NGO spread some information, do some posters, so you cannot do that. But if you change your name and also you find someone to do their the advertisement, and also user I just mentioned user advertisement, use the company models, it is okay, so still can work. So I mean, it's inside, so we still can find some space to change some strategy. It still can working. Thank you.
Thank you, Acha. Ying?
So I would like to, I totally agree with Qiang and Jens that we still have space to be more specific. So firstly, although we cannot make this kind of big impact, like in terms of the national or state level, but definitely we still can make change at the institutional level or even like industrial level. To be more specific, we can like work with other forces, like other stakeholders, and there's a framework like SDG or like DEI or like SDG, DEI, and ESG. And I can raise an example like like according to the recent communication with movers from UN. So they still can hold this can host this kind of event about gender and sexuality equality to host like seminars for young generation. And secondly, like last year, after our center has been closed, I heard that some of our kind of friends who work in the sex education area, they still can talk about LGBT. And thirdly, like recently, although our center has been shut down, but we still managed to work with psychologists and doctors through our platform called 小物生, like Life is Health. So I believe like if we can work with others under a larger framework, we still can find opportunities. So please, if you work in a company or you work as any forms of professionals, we can find a way to work with each other to, to gradually make a change in China.
Great. Yeah. So yes,
Yeah,
please.
can I add one more?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, inspired by Ying. Beside business, also I know there are a lot of academia here. So I think doing research, or if you have opportunity to work with the Chinese scholars, please raise these issues. I think we still have a lot of space on the academia area, like cooperation. And also, if you have the chance to meet with the government body of China, express your concern is enough. And every time you just express your concern or ask one question, that will be very helpful. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So summary, if you are in the corporate world, if you're in academia, if you're in the mental health sector, and you would like to help, please feel free to reach out, and Yanzi, Achang, or Ying could coordinate with you about different ways that you can contribute. So sorry, we went over time a little bit, but I'd like to thank everybody for spending time with us today, this morning / afternoon / evening, depending on where you are. It was really a rich discussion, and the results are from the survey were really encouraging. And even more encouraging was to hear from our panel of advocates from China. So thank you so much. And we will see you next time.
Thank you. And remember to share the data report with your friends.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye-bye.